Hello everybody, it's Jansaurus, and here we like to focus on budget Magic the Gathering. Today I'm bringing you a Tatsunari Toad Rider budget commander deck. So Tatsunari is a very unique Sultai commander. He focuses on playing enchantments and repeatedly playing those enchantments. So we're going to be playing our enchantments, getting those back to our hand, and then playing them again to get the most out of our little buddy Kimi. While he's still around. Okay, so Tatsunari, like I said, is a very fun, interesting Sultai commander because he doesn't care if your enchantments stay on the board or not. So we got a little bit of recursion built into the deck. We have a little bit of frogs scattered throughout, not too many, because I wanted this to be focused mostly on the enchantment plays. So let's get into it. Tatsunari Toad Rider is a 2 and a black legendary human ninja. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, if you don't control a creature named Kimi, create Kimi, a legendary 3/3 black and green frog creature token with. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And then you can pay 1 and either a green or a blue. And then Tatsunari and target frog you control can't be blocked this turn except by flying or reach. So he gives one of his little friends a nice little bonus of flying, essentially. So like I said, Tatsunari is a very fun commander. And let's get into his little buddy Kimi. Kimi, whenever you cast an enchantment spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It bothers me that the art that toad is clearly not that toad. I just wish it was a little bit closer design-wise, but that's just my own little gripe against these 2 cards. Alright, let's start off by getting into a little bit of the ramp. So our ramp is going to be enchantment-based, just to get as many Kimi triggers as we can. So we'll have Fertile Ground. You enchant land. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 additional mana of any color. Font of Fertility. 1 and a green. You can sacrifice it to search your land for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Market Festival. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds 2 mana in any combination of its colors to his or her mana pool. Omen of the Hunt has flash, and when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. You can also pay 2 and a green to sacrifice it to scry 2 to give you a little bit of card selection. Weirding Wood, enchant land. When it enters the battlefield, investigate, and then enchanted land has tap, add 2 mana of any 1 color to your mana pool. Wild Growth adds 1 to your mana pool whenever target land is tapped for mana. Wolf Willow Haven will probably give some of my standard buddies some PTSD from the good old Sultai Ultimatum deck. It has enchant land. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for a mana, its controller adds an additional green. And then you can pay 4 and a green to sacrifice Wolf Willow Haven to create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Activate this ability only during your turn. You're probably not going to really need that, but if you're flooding in mana, I can see it if you really desperately need a blocker for the next turn or a board wipe happens. But more than likely, we want to get Kimi out and just keep all of our extra mana to get some of our repeatable enchantments played repeatedly. Nessian Wanderer has Constellation. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a land card from among them and put that card into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. We have Arcane Signet. Tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity, and then Commander's Sphere. Tap, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity, and then you can sacrifice it to draw a card. Going on to the card draw, Confounding Conundrum. When Confounding Conundrum enters the battlefield, draw a card. And when a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player had another land enter the battlefield under their control this turn, they return a land they control to its owner's hand. So this prevents other people from ramping off if we happen to get this early in the game. It is especially funny if they have a sacrificed land. So if they have even just a Terramorphic Expanse or Unclaimed Territory. No, that's the tribal one. A Fabled Passage. Anything like that. If they play that, sacrifice that land to put another land, they actually have to take another land off of their board because of that. It's a really mean trick. I would, if you're playing with your friends, let them know that before they actually sacrifice the land. Otherwise, you're kind of being a little bit of a dick, but I also understand. It just, like I said, this card's really good. It just slows down other green players, especially. And then we got Curiosity. Enchant creature. When enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Oh, we have a few options for this one, but you want to put it onto one of your pinging creatures. So if you put this on Kimi, for example, every time you play another enchantment, you just draw cards. We have a ton of draw engine in this deck. Enchantress Presence. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you draw a card. And then we have Greed. Since we're going to be pinging and draining our opponents the whole game, Greed is just going to get us a ton of cards throughout the game. Just pay black and pay 2 life and you draw a card, and it's repeatable. It's just an amazing card draw engine for anything that has life gain. Keen Sense. Enchant creature. When enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Again, you want to put this on one of your pingers. We have Omen of the Sea, has flash. When it enters the battlefield, you scry 2 and then draw a card, and then you can also sacrifice it for 2 and a blue to scry another 2 cards. Reconnaissance Mission. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw cards. And it has Cycling 2. More than likely, you're never going to play the Cycling 2 part. The only thing that's a little bit sad about Reconnaissance Mission is that it says combat damage, so you don't get it off your pinging effects. But honestly, it would probably be way too broken if that was the case. Season of Growth. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you scry 1. And whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a spell. That counts enchantments. So there, again, we're going to get a ton of auras or mainly auras to actually get even more card draw and card selection. So it's going to be a very, very good card in this deck. Snake Umbra. Enchant creature. It gets +1/+1 and has whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. And more importantly, it has totem armor. So you slap Snake Umbra onto your Kimi. Your Kimi then triggers. Sadly, Snake Umbra is not there yet. But then you play another one, and then Kimi pings someone else, and then you get to draw another card. So it's a very good engine. And then if they try and kill Kimi, you sacrifice Snake Umbra, and Kimi still remains. So it's a little bit of protection regarding that. So it's perfect. Eidolon of Blossoms. Constellation. Whenever Eidolon or another enchantment creature enters the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. Just a really solid draw engine in this deck. Hateful Eidolon. We're going to be playing a little bit of auras, and you want to get some of that recursion. Whenever an enchanted creature dies, draw a card for each aura you control that was attached to it. Again, just gives you a little bit more gas for a loss. And then we have Setessan Champion. Has Constellation. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Setessan Champion and draw a card. This guy can get absolutely massive very quickly in this deck, and he will draw a lot of removal towards him. People do not underestimate a Setescent champion anymore. Alpha Authority. Enchanted creature has hexproof and can't be blocked by more than one creature. You more than likely want to put this on your Kimi, just again to get more protection for your actual win condition. Then we have Aspect of the Mongoose. Can't be the target of spells or abilities. Sadly, that does make it so it gives him Pseudo Shroud. That's what it gives him. So you can't actually target him with any more of your auras. So just remember that when you play this. But whenever Aspect of the Mongoose is put into a graveyard from play, return Aspect of the Mongoose to its owner's hand. So this is an instance of a repeatable enchantment. Kaya's Ghost Form. Enchant creature or planeswalker you control. When enchanted permanent dies or is put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. Again, just a really nice form of... it's not necessarily recursion, but protection for our playmakers. Molting Skin. Return Molting Skin to its owner's hand, regenerate target creature. So this is a very nice form of protection because you can play it ahead of time, and then it costs absolutely nothing, and then it bounces back to the hand as the cost. So they can't not let you do that. And then it protects the creature that they're trying to remove, and then you can play it again next turn to get another Kimi trigger. So it is a very great card in this deck. And honestly, even if you don't need the protection, you can just slap it on the field, return it to the hand, give something regeneration, slap it back on the field, return it to hand, and just keep pinging your opponents. Next up, we have Launch. Enchant creature gains flying. When Launch is put into the graveyard from play, return Launch to its owner's hand. Again, a very great recursion method for your enchantments. Next up, we have Mourning. Enchant creature gets -2/-0, and you can pay a black to return Mourning to its owner's hand. So this one, again, is a very great card. You just pay a single black mana, it bounces back, and you can just drain your opponents for 1 life for essentially 3 mana. Rancor, enchant creature, it gets +2/+0 and has trample. And then when it gets put into the graveyard, you return Rancor to its owner's hand. Again, just a really great way to get that recursion and additional pinging effects off of your little frog buddy. Shimmering Wings, enchant creature has flying, and then you can pay blue to return Shimmering Wings to its owner's hand. So this one's a little bit better than Mourning because it just gives you additional Kimi pings for 2 mana. They just have to be blue specifically. Whip Silk. Enchant creature may block as though it has flying, and then you can pay green to return Whip Silk to its owner's hand. Again, this is just a really great way to get repeated pinging effects. That's the whole segment is about, returning enchantments. Riptide Chimera not only is an enchantment creature, but it also, at the beginning of your upkeep, return an enchantment you control to its owner's hand. So this just, again, allows you to keep pinging your opponents consistently. Shimmer Wing Chimera. At the beginning of your upkeep, return up to 1 target enchantment you control to its owner's hand. Again, it's an enchantment creature, so not only do you get a ping off of that, but it enables you to reactivate some of your other enchantments that are on their way out or are no longer on the optimal target. Now we're going to get into our pingers. So we got Dina, Soul Steeper. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. So the ratio would be everyone loses 2 life, and then you would gain 1 life. So just really good to have with Kimi. You can pay 1 to sacrifice another creature. Dina Soul Steeper gets X +0 until end of turn, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. You're more than likely not ever going to use that. But if someone has a fight effect and you don't want them to actually, the fight to actually happen, or a removal spell, I can kind of see where that would be helpful. Fate Unraveler. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Fate Unraveler deals 1 damage to that player. On the surface, this doesn't look like much, but against certain opponents like a Spellslinger deck or a combo deck, this will really add up very quickly. And with your other ping effects, Fate Unraveler could be the underdog of your entire deck. It can just literally take out certain opponents. Grim Guardian. Whenever Grim Guardian or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. Again, any of these guys, I just want to say, would be great for any of those cards that let you draw if they deal damage to an opponent. That's all I'm going to say. Marauding Blight Priest. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. It's literally a Dina Soul Steeper, except a little bit more offensive and costs a little bit more. Okay, we're going to go into our Enchanter cards. So we got Agent of Erebus. We got Constellation. Whenever Agent of Erebus or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Gotta love the graveyard hate. Gotta love all that graveyard hate. You can not only hit the person who's doing reanimation or maybe self-mill strategy, you can hit literally everyone to get to axe any possible way for a reanimator deck to actually thrive. Caliphate, Beloved of the Sea. Its power is equal to your devotion of blue. It's really not going to get that strong. It's just here for the pseudo ward effect. Creature and enchantments you control have spells your opponent casts that target this permanent. Cast 1 more to cast. So with this, it just gives them a little bit less of an incentive, more of a deterrent to aim the removal somewhere else if they're debating it, or it just makes them straight up not be able to play multi-targeting spells. Doomwake Giant. Constellation. Whenever Doomwake Giant or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, creatures your opponent's control get -1/-1 until end of turn. With our, especially like Shimmerwing and Whip Silk, Doomwake Giant can be a one-sided board wipe very easily. Just very easily. Just everything on the board can just be gone late game. Absolutely monster of a card. Eutropia, the Twice Favored. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. That creature also gains flying until end of turn. Nice to get a little bit of pseudo, not pseudo evasion, it is evasion. And then it buffs up your creatures just a little bit. That can make a difference, but unless we're getting to our kind of our return enchantments, it's just going to be a little bit nicer, is all I'm trying to say. It's not by far the best card in the deck. Nylea's Colossus. All right, so this is like, if you're going to want to go super budget, cut this card. This is, I think, a $6 or $7 card that I was able to fit into the budget. This is your Hail Mary. Whenever Nylea's Colossus or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, double target creature's power and toughness until end of turn. I don't even know what to say. It's just a really great card. It can really boost a lot of our creatures very quickly with our deck, and this can get out of hand absolutely insanely quick. Especially thanks to our next card, Pharika, God of Affliction. Indestructible. As long as your devotion to black and green is less than 7, Pharika isn't a creature, but you can pay black and a green to exile target creature card from a graveyard. Its owner puts a 1/1 black and green snake enchantment creature token with Death Touch on the battlefield. The fact that Pharika actually gives you an enchantment creature on the battlefield with Death Touch triggers all of our Constellation triggers, including Nylea's Colossus, including Doomwake Giant, and you can absolutely end the game with just those 3 cards on the field at the time. It is, like I said, absolutely insane. Love the 3 cards I was talking about. Protean Thaumaturge, Constellation. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may have it become a copy of another target creature, except it has this ability. So whenever we play one of our repeated creatures, we can just copy whatever the best creature on the board, whether that's us or them. Do not copy Kimi or Tatsunari, just saying. Or any of your other legendary creatures. Legendary rule still applies. But if someone's got a Blightsteel Colossus, you might as well get a Blightsteel Colossus of your own. It's not that hard of a concept. Thought Render Lamia. Constellation. Whenever Thought Reader, Lamia, or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent discards a card. With our repeated enchantments, this can actually be their entire hand very easily. Weaver of Harmony. Other enchantment creatures you get ++1/+1. And then you can pay a green and tap it to copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an enchantment source. You may choose new targets for that copy. So double up your Nylea Colossus, double up your Pharika trigger, double up your Doomwake Giant. There's so many options. Some of our pinging effects are also enchantment creatures, so if you really want to get that extra 1 damage, go ahead, be my guest. Next up, we got Helm of the Gods. Equip creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. Equip 1 cost. This is the only card that actually cares about how many enchantments you have on the board. Everything else just cares about repeated enchantment play. And then we're going to add a little bit of frogs. So we got Froghemoth, has Trample and Haste. Whenever Froghemoth deals combat damage to a player, exile up to that many target cards from their graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on Froghemoth for each creature exiled this way, and you gain 1 life for each non-creature exiled this way. It's just a really interesting threat. It fits the frog, the little bit of frog pseudo theme that we got going on here. And then my favorite part is that you can either buff Froghemoth with exiling creatures, or you attack the Spellslinger guy and exile non-creature cards from it, and then you gain life, and then your life triggers happen, and then you actually end up pinging people even more because Froghemoth decided to be a dick. Honestly, a really good, just a really good card. Just a really good card. Yargle, Glutton of Urborg. Sorry. Just a very vanilla card, honestly. It's not too exciting. Has 4 and a black for a cost, and it's a 9/3. But it's a zero card text that actually really matters. So that's kind of disappointing. But Tatsunari's second ability, the ability to give a frog flying, can make Yargle a actually very potent threat, knocking out almost a quarter of your starting life total. And then we got Augmenter Pugilist. 1 and a green. As long as you control 8 or more lands, it gets +5/+5, turning it into an 8/8 with trample. That's not that bad of a threat. But here is the more fun option. Echoing Equation. Choose target creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of it until end of turn, except those creatures aren't legendary if the chosen creature is legendary. Oh my god. So, let's go into this. You play Echoing Equation on your Kimi. Every creature you control automatically becomes a Kimi. You play, let's say you have 5 creatures and then a Kimi. So you have a total of 6. You have now 6 Kimis. You play 1 repeatable enchantment. Let's go with Shimmerwing. And then that's 2 mana to ping 12 people and then play it again. So you play it, that 1 mana enchantment that you can bounce back to your hand for 1 mana. So you play it, 12 damage. Pay 1, play it again, 24 damage. Ping it back to your hand, put it back down, 36 damage. Absolutely insane. Absolutely love this card. And then if also you can do this with your Doomwake Giants if you really want to, that would be a very interesting way in case you don't have Kimi out on the field to just do a more insured board wipe. But like I said, that you're going to want to put this on your Kimi. Binding of the Old Gods. We're getting into our removal, obviously. Destroy target non-permanent or non-land permanent and opponent controls. Then you search your library for a forest card. You put that onto the battlefield tapped. And then creatures you control gain Death Touch until end of turn. I mean, it does a little bit of everything that you want. Most of our enchantment is also removal. Or most of our removal is also enchantments. If I forget the exact number, but if you look back, most of our creatures are enchantments, most of our ramp is enchantments, and most of our removal is enchantments. So there's not really a whole lot else that we could dip into for our enchantments. This is just a very enchantment heavy deck. So there are a few enchantment hate cards, so just be wary of that. But if you don't run into that, you have free reign, and Kimi is just literally going to drain your opponents dry. Next up, we got Imprisoned in the Moon. Enchant land, creature, or planeswalker. Enchanted permanent is a colorless land with tap, add colorless, and loses all other card types and abilities. Oof. That's all I can say is just oof. I wish this also targeted artifacts, but the fact that it can just pick the best creature or the best utility or combo piece, or even just the just someone's planeswalker in general, or maybe a really strong land card. It just, like, there's just so much that you can do with this one card that just ruins so many other people's plans. Really good card. Casmina's Transmutation, enchant creature. It loses all abilities and has base power toughness 1/1. It's just a really good removal effect. Lignify, exact same thing, except it has a base, it's a tree folk with a base power toughness 0/4. So a little bit better of a blocker, but at least it can't attack you that way. Death Sprout. Destroy target creature, search your library for a basic land card, put that onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. Then we have Heartless Act. Destroy target creature with no counters on it, or remove up to 3 counters from target creature, depending on the circumstance. Obviously, you use the better side. Hero's Downfall. And I just love this artwork compared to the, I believe, Innistrad's Hero's Downfall. Like, this one is just so much more brutal, with that Minotaur just literally crushing this guy. Just destroy target creature or planeswalker. Murder, destroy target creature. All this is instant speed removal. Our other removal can't quite do that, obviously. We're getting into Tyrant Scorn. Choose one, destroy target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less, or return target creature to its owner's hand. Just really good way to give you options, and it's also a really good way to either remove something or make them have to waste all their mana again to play their Blightsteel Colossus, or maybe their Niv Mizzet, or something along the lines of that. Feed the Swarm. Destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls. You lose life equal to that permanent's converted mana cost. Oof. So, this isn't instant speed, but it does also hit enchantments, because there are certain enchantments that can easily just take over a game. Then we have Frogify, enchant creature. It loses all abilities. It turns into a blue frog creature with base power toughness 1/1. Please do not use this on your own cards. There is not a circumstance where you want to lose all of your abilities to get another frog on the field. That's a 1/1. Please do not use this on your own creature. Next up, we have a few more utility cards. We have Sigil of Sleep. Whenever enchanted creature deals damage to a player, return target creature that player controls to its owner's hand. If you can fit this on your Kimi or another ping effect, that is phenomenal, because then you can literally just start doing a budgetary Cyclonic Rift by bouncing everything on the field back to their hand by playing a repeated board wipe. Just a really great way to clear the board. Like, I don't know what else to say on that. Fang of Shigeki. It's just a 1 mana enchantment creature. It has Death Touch to give you a little bit of protection against people trying to take out you, because you could easily become the bad guy in this deck. And having a few Death Touch creatures and your Pharika on the field to make even more Death Touch creatures at a moment's notice, honestly, a really great wall of defense. We have Gloom Shrieker. It has Menace, and when it enters the battlefield, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. But if it dies, it gets exiled instead. So it's not... all around, we're not going to be bringing this thing back. The only thing that kind of slightly stinks about this is you can't then exile it with Pharika to get another little snake token. But all in all, this is going to be way more worth it. And then we have In Garruk's Wake, has 7 black, destroy all creatures you don't control and all planeswalkers you don't control. Now you might look at the rest of the cards and be like, this doesn't quite really fit. But all of our ramp can be used on this stuff too, not just our repeated enchantment effects. So a one-sided board wipe is just absolutely nuts. And depending on our state, obviously that can end the game very quickly. So we're going to look at the value here. TCG Player without shipping is $48.54, so just under $50. And then we got $13.50 for shipping. That was due to TCG Player's optimization cart, or cart optimization. I don't know what they recently did to it, but it has worked so much better for me in the past couple months than it has ever worked for Commander decks. It's actually functional. You don't sit there for 30 minutes wondering if it's even going to work. It actually just tells you a percentage as it goes along. Phenomenal job, guys. Way to fix your stuff. Could not recommend them more. Next up, we have Card Kingdom at $62.87. And that's with shipping. Card Kingdom includes shipping onto the price. And then they also ship it all at once. They don't kind of divvy it out. You don't have to wait probably 4 or 5 days between shipments to get all your stuff. It can just arrive all at once. You can crack it open, put sleeves on it, and then go to the game store instead of only getting a quarter of your deck, a third of your deck, and then have to wait on the last 2 or 3 packages to get to you. So I can see why people do enjoy Card Kingdom, and honestly, the price isn't that much of a difference. It's actually, doing quick mental math in my head, should have done this ahead of time, it's literally the same price at the moment. It's if you do the math, that would be 14 plus 48. Yeah, that would be 62. So it's literally an extra $1. So there's that too. It's literally the same price. It's just one has the cart optimizer where you can pick and choose, and then one has Card Kingdom if in case you do want to go on a little bit more of a budget with TCG Player. The average cost of this deck on EDHREC is $750.37. That is using Card Kingdom price, but as you can see here, that is still consistent with shipping with TCG Player. So for the fact that we are going so far under budget that we are at like 9% with shipping of a normal average costed deck, and we are able to output that much damage and stay in the game that much more and actually be the bad guy for less than $50, absolutely phenomenal. And I just can't get enough of this alternate art. It's just it's just so ridiculous looking. Absolutely love it. Really kind of drives home like an anime style, obviously, and honestly fits the whole, I don't want to say the aesthetic of Kamigawa, but it does make it feel a little bit more Kamigawa-y like than the normal art. I just really like it, not gonna lie. That being said, like I said, amazing price for what the average deck is. And I just want to let you guys know that you can build a very competent and very competitive deck. Hold on, let me rephrase that. This is not a CDH deck. This is an EDH deck. So a very focused and powerful deck is what I want to say. I don't want to use the word competitive because then people will be like, oh, this is not a competitive deck. Where is this card? Kind of thing. Where's my Swang Songs? Let's go into the lore. So Tatsunari is part of the Mukotai Reckoners. And then so he tried pickpocketing a monk as a very early kid and was actually caught by the monk's kami. This made him want to get one kami of his own. So then he tried to poison, wow, these names, Shishiro, to force him to give up his kami Kamai. So Shishiro is actually the commander pre-con, the box standard guy, and he is obviously a samurai who is bonded with Kami, or Kama, the fractured Kam. So what happened is Tatsunari poisoned the food or drink, and Cicero and all of his friends and coworkers and his group were poisoned to the point of paralysis. And then Tatsunari went around and killed every single one of them, and then came up to Shishiro. I don't know why I'm saying Cicero. I apologize. Shishiro. And was like, I will do the same unless you give up Kama and give him to me. Not wanting the kami to die, Shishiro, wow, this name is hard, actually gave up Kama so Kama wouldn't pass away. This angered Kama. Kama got really mad at Shishiro. Shishiro then, they had split, left their own way, and then Kama actually freaked out and started demolishing villages. So, because this attempt failed, Tatsunari then went back to Tawashi and then caught what is called a corpse swallower toad out of the Undercity canals, raised it for years, and named it Kimi. So, years and years later, he rises through the ranks. He has an unbridled rage for the kami and wants to fight most of them and hurt the spirits as much as he can. Flash forward a couple years, he actually fights Shishiro in what is called the Far Corner, just a little village out in the middle of nowhere. And they get into a really big fight because Tatsunari is trying to hurt the kami. The kami is then freaking out, and Shiro is actually training the village that all this is happening to like defend themselves. Anyway, Tatsunari ends up fighting Lizard Guy for the right to either hurt this kami or anything like that. Shiro ends up figuring out it is Kami or Kama. They rebond, and that's supposed to be a huge thing because it was a misunderstanding between the two and all this happened. But they end up agreeing to help each other and relearning from here on out how to learn from one's differences. And then Shishiro ends up beating Tatsunari and then kills Kimi. So that makes me super sad that Kimi ends up passing away and Tatsunari is driven out of the village. And Shishiro wins. The fact that Kimi dies at the very end of the story makes me really sad, just because, like, regardless of what that frog was trained to do, you know Tatsunari really loved that frog, or toad. Okay, so that's the story. Sorry about the long-winded lore bit. There was just a lot of detail in that short story about Shishiro and Tatsunari, and that's really the only story that Tatsunari ever gets, so I wanted to really flesh out that detail for you guys in case you do enjoy the lore aspect of Magic the Gathering. I feel like it does improve the game. It does make you care more about the commander that you're playing to know this, and that's why I include it. That being said, guys, thank you so much for all your support. Thank you for watching this far, in case you did. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a like. If you didn't like it, go ahead and give it a dislike. I know I got a little bit rambly near the lore aspect. I'm working on it. There was just, like I said, a lot of detail compared to a lot of these. That being said, just a really great commander, really great and fun deck. And it's a different take on the whole Enchantress deck. Sorry, Enchanter. You know, Tatsunari's a guy. That being said, really do appreciate all the support you guys give. I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy.